We're going to take a look now at the project preferences. That's our next step. And as you can see on page 6, or I should say page 2, you will see the Power Civil Water Sewer Project Preferences section. So we're going to look at those preferences that we briefly brought up earlier. So back at the Water Sewer Preferences dialog, we'll start with the units. Each project has a specific unit, and we simply choose the English or metric system, and that project stays within that system. You cannot switch units once the project's created. The information for length, dimension, depth, discharge, velocity will be reported in the units specified in the dialog. So if you have to enter a velocity, you'll be entering feet per second. Depth, you'll be entering feet, and so forth. The project components section is where we point to particular standard files or other project files related to this particular project that we would like to access. So for example, it's already pointing to a DDB file, which has all the plan graphic information for the various pipes and junctions or nodes that we'll be placing. We also can point to a coordinate geometry file, and to do that we simply hit the select job number icon, highlight the file, and click OK. The cell library, we can point to that as well. It's already pointing to our powercivil.cell, and this again has the graphical representation of the nodes or manholes or any gate valves or junctions that we'll be placing on our water and sewer lines. You may also have a water sewer library, although it's not necessary, and a water sewer library would be in your standards folder, data geosite standards, and a water sewer library would contain various pipes for water and sewer that you may place on any particular project. And then if you have drainage design done, which in our case we do, then you can select the drainage file. So we have done a drainage design for our subdivision, and the data from that project is stored in a file called drainage.gdf, or drainage file. And so if we want to check for conflicts, plot crossings on our profiles, stuff like that, then we have that information accessible. The cells option is if you would like to scale the cells that you're placing in plan view. Ours are drawn to scale in the cell library, and therefore we don't need to scale them. The terrain section is for setting up what surface model are you going to be using to set up the design. So for example, we have a site project, so we've done a grading design on our subdivision. That information or grading design exists inside this site project file called base plan, located in our water sewer folder, and inside that project are several objects and models. So for example, our original ground surface is in an object called existing ground 1, and our design surface is in a model called section 1. So as we're setting water lines 3.5, 4 feet below a surface, we'll get to choose whether we want to use existing ground or the design surface. As we set rim elevations and bottom elevations for our nodes or junctions, manholes, we'll we can reference a ground surface or a design surface. The naming convention is set up there for your project, and if you want to label information, then you simply just toggle on the label. So the water sewer project file, or GWS file, is a database, and it's going to contain water lines and sewer lines and water nodes and sewer nodes, and they all have a name. So and they'll default to this naming convention unless otherwise specified. You can update or change the way they're labeled just simply by double-clicking on the graphic or right-clicking. Oops, sorry. Double-clicking on the graphic will bring up the GeoPack set feature, and you can change the level, color, and weight as you see necessary. I'm just going to use the defaults that were set up with the project preferences that we opened. The sewer manholes, you can choose to draw sewer manholes in profile or not. There's a toggle there to do that. Once you decide to turn that toggle on, then you can choose what type of manhole. So we support rectangle, a triangle type, or a funnel type. In this particular project, I've chosen to use funnel. I've set the coefficient values as you see here, 1, 2, 0.5, and 4. And they will be plotted in a profile view with this particular symbology. And again, double click on the sample graphic will bring up a dialog to change that symbology if needed. The next option is sewer lines. This is where we can set a minimum slope. So in a sewer, we actually do a design of the sewer system, and it's a gravity fed system, so you can set a minimum slope, and later on when you place the nodes, you might give us a min max depth for the pipe, and with that we'll come up with a design envelope, if you will, and lay out the sewer line. We have some options here to automatically update the sewer line profile. So if I make a change or a modification to the sewer line in plan view, it will update the profile, and vice versa. If I would desire to design from center of manhole to center of manhole on my sewer line, then I can say ignore manhole width in sewer line calculations, and therefore the slope will be determined from the center to center of manhole. We also have some options to check the serviceability of a house or a building site. And so we can set up what we call a critical connection path with some basic slope and vertical drop offset information. And the water sewer program can see, well, coming from this sewer main, will I actually be able to service this building that's set at a particular elevation? And so you draw the path that you would be connecting with, and that would go ahead and do a check and profile and allow you to see if you can actually service that building, giving the current grade and depth of the sewer line at the location specified. We're not going to be accessing that, and again, for more in-depth information about a particular option, feel free to contact the toll-free support as well. Profiles is an option to not only name the profiles as you create them in the database, that would be the profile ID, but you can also create alignments and profiles of the bottom and tops of pipes and have those stored in coordinate geometry, and then plot those profiles onto road profiles or something. The loading option is for calculating capacity of the sewer and used in the sewer calculations. Here you can set up an effective flow unit rate. Turn your attention back to the first option called units. You can see EFU here at the bottom is gallons per day per unit. So the value that I'm keying in there would be gallons per day per unit. Peaking factors, and then infiltration rate per unit length of pipe. We also have a services tool within Water Sewer to lay out lot services coming off of a sewer main, and we can, in the capacity calculations, we can scan for those service lines. So there actually would, as it went along a particular sewer line, it would be scanning to see if it found those services that you placed with the services tool, and if it sees that those services have a loading applied to them, and so it would use that load to help design the system. And then finally, saving options. One of the options is to create an automatic save and set up an interval, or you can do as I've done here and just have it save it as you enter information. It would save it or save on the fly. You can have it create a backup file of the database, the Water Sewer file, as you enter into the file into that session. So at this point I'm going to click OK, and our next step would be to start creating some lines. So we're going to pick back up on page 5.